So we're going to talk about how to tell your clients that you're going to be raising your rates. And that, my friends, that's up next right after this break. Come on. My name is Lou Reyes, and before the break, I said what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you how to tell your clients that you are raising your rates. And the first thing that I want to just mention and make sure that we kind of have an understanding here is that once you decide that you have to raise your rates, it's a necessity. You know what? Just be decisive. It's a decision that you've made. Don't hem and haw. Don't, sit with your coworkers or your employees rather and say, yeah, I'm not sure. What if I do this, I'm going to lose this business or that business. You know what? Be decisive. You've already determined that you need to raise your rates. So there's no need to try to, sit down and convince yourself or convince your employees that you need to do it. Just got to go ahead. You've got to make that decision. Make it firmly, make it strongly, and be decisive. Okay, so now you've decided you've got to raise your rates. So what do? Well, you're going to have to plan ahead. Plan out your rate increase. Decide when to raise your rate and how much you'll increase your rates by and how often you're going to have to increase. And I think you really need to plan this out. And let me explain what I mean. When you decide that you want to raise your rates, it's not easy. Possibly you're losing money or you're charging too low of a price for your service. So you've got to raise that rate. What I suggest you do is plan it out and that you do an annual increase. And my thing is I look at the rate of inflation. It's always going to factor into whatever I'm doing. And I know right now during this shooting of this video, inflation, I believe, is right about 4.5%. I factor inflation in and what I anticipate inflation to be. I always factor that in. And of course, you're going to be looking at what your costs are. And after all, that's what prompted you to decide or prompted your decision to raise your rates. So big thing, number one is plan ahead. Number two, raise your rates incrementally. And I've had to raise my rates a number of times. And I did many times over the course of years. You just find yourself faced with the decision, the need to raise your rates. But when you're going to do it, you don't want to just give some huge, hefty rate increase. And I'm going to talk a little bit about those huge increases in a second here. But do it incrementally. And when I say this to you, I'm also thinking about some history that you may want to think about. If you hold back and you don't raise your rates over the course of a year or two or three, you may be faced with a time where you're going to have to really raise that rate high, and you don't want to be in a position where you're going to have to try to shove some big price increase down your client's throat. You don't want to be in that position. So my suggestion is look at annual increases, make them incremental, make them small increases. Say it's 2-3%, maybe 4 or 5, whatever that percentage will be. But it's certainly better than waiting 3 years or 4 years and all of a sudden now you've got to raise your rates 20% or 30% just to be able to stay in business and even just to keep pace with inflation, which I mentioned before. But if you decide, if for some reason you don't do it incrementally and you've got to go ahead and hit them with that big, huge price increase, or just do one big price increase and just get it out of the way. Do it. Let the chips fall where they may. But my suggestion and my advice from someone who's done it many, many times, someone who's worked with hundreds of business owners through my chain of business-to-business magazines, I know to the man, to the woman, every owner, every manager will say do it incrementally and do it on a regular basis. Another thing that I strongly suggest when you are raising rates is give advance notice. Nobody likes being surprised, especially your customers, because keep something in mind. You're raising your rates. Now, if you're dealing with the consumer, with the general public, you know what? It's easier lots of times for them to swallow that incremental increase. And I'm not saying it's always going to be easy, but it's easier for them than it is for a manufacturer that you're supplying parts to, or maybe that you're supplying services to a company, and they will have to pass on your rate increase, and they'll have to absorb it, and they're not going to be happy. But give time, and I always suggest minimum of 30 to 45 days. If you can give a 90-day price increase, it shows that you really thought this through. This isn't something that you decided on a spur of the moment. You're going to go ahead and you're going to give a price increase. Think it through. Show them that you did. Show them that you did by planning ahead and giving them the price increase. At least 90 days is ideal. 30 to 45 days is tolerable, depending on who it is. If it's a consumer, once again, I could do a 30-day and live with that, or 45. But a manufacturer, somebody that you're providing a service to who may have to and pass that price increase along, I want them to get at least a 90-day price notice that you're going to be raising your rates. Another step that you must consider is let them know how this rate increase is going to benefit them. And this is something I've mentioned. I've done it many, many times. And I've always, whenever I had to do a price increase, I would sit down, and I will tell you the truth. Sometimes I did agonize. I'm like, I had to think to myself, how could I spin this? How could I let them know that this is benefiting them? Because sometimes it wasn't so obvious, but I always knew that if I could let them know how it was benefiting them, then that would make it easier, more palatable. They could at least understand and look at it and go, yeah, I see the reason for this. And let me just kind of give you just a few examples of some benefits. You're going to say, well, I'm adding more staff because I want to be able to give each person great service. And I find right now that we're a little bit stretched. So if I hire more people, if I'm able to hire more people, I can do more for my clients. And that to me was always a good reason for it. Or somebody could say, hey, I'm offering more product services now. Now, if it's a car detailing place, and I'll just use this as an example, not only are we detailing your car, but we're also going to run it through the car wash, and we're doing that. And that's used to be a separate charge, and now we're adding that in. We want to really make this a great package for you. So you're always looking for ways to make it more palatable, to show your client that the reason you're increasing your rates is you're increasing it to help them. You're increasing it to benefit them. When you announce a price increase, do it by phone, or you can do it by Zoom, or you can even do it in person. It really does make a difference compared to just sending out an email or a text or sending it out in a letter, which I've gotten a few letters in my career from companies who thought or just announce the price increase or the rate increase. And usually it's larger corporations who really don't give a darn about you. And they just are, they want your business to tell you how great you are, how much they love you, but they don't want to do it in person. And sometimes I can understand it. But if you're a big customer, and I've been a large customer to some companies, you know what? Don't send it to me in writing. Don't waste my time. But if you do it in person, or you do it by Zoom, or even if you happen to have to do it by email, well, what that does for you, if you're the one giving the price increase, it gives you the ability to sell that price increase, to let them know why you're doing it. The last tip I can give you when it comes to announcing your rate increases, be confident. When you let them know that you're going to be increasing the rate, be confident. Make eye contact with them. Don't hem and haw. Gently get to the point, but just get to the point. You could say something like, yes, I wanted to tell you this in person because I really value your company. I value the business you've been giving me, but I just want to let you know I'm got to increase the rate, and this is why I made my decision, or why I made the decision, or we made the decision to increase our rates. And then you can give them the reason, whatever you know to be true. Just let them know. But also, as I mentioned earlier, let them know how it benefits them. And I want you to understand something when it comes to this. This is a natural occurrence in businesses. You're having to increase your rates. I've said this before. But understand this. It is likely. It's possible that you're going to lose a client or two. I don't care if it's a hair salon. People are going to be price sensitive or price conscious too. It could be a larger client. You don't want to lose anyone, but it is part of being in business. You're going to lose people. You're going to lose clients that you really value, and you're going to hate to see them go. But you know what happens when they go? What happens a lot of times, and I've seen this many times, is you're making room for other people to come on board, to be new customers, and they're going to pay you. They're going to gladly pay you the rate that you're charging. Well, there you go, folks. I've just given you, or really just tried to tell you how you can tell your clients that you're raising your rates. These are great ways to do it, to do that, to announce that price increase. And believe me, most of the time, people will understand, and especially they've been longtime clients. So that's all I got for you today. Like I always say, have a great day, everybody. Come on!